They say the moon holds secrets, ancient, terrible, beautiful secrets that mortals were never meant to know. Tonight, I will tell you one of them. This is a story of a girl who lost everything, and a beast who found his soul in the most impossible place. A story of magic gone wrong, of destiny twisted into knots, and of love that bloomed in the space between two heartbeats, one human, one wild. But I must warn you, dear listener, this tale does not begin gently. It begins with blood. Act 1, The Shattering. The Omega knelt in the dirt, and she did not cry. Elara Thorne had learned long ago that tears changed nothing. They did not soften the blows. They did not earn mercy. They only proved what everyone already believed, that she was weak, broken, less than nothing in a world that measured worth in power alone. Around her, the Silvermane pack gathered like vultures circling carrion. The autumn wind carried their whispers, sharp as broken glass. Wolfless Omega. Cursed. Should have been drowned at birth. Elara kept her eyes on the ground, on the scattered leaves painted gold and crimson by the dying light. Beautiful things, she thought. Even in death, they were beautiful. Perhaps there was hope in that. Look at me when I'm speaking to you. The voice belonged to Mira Blackwood, Beta, Beauty, and Elara's personal tormentor since childhood. Myra's wolf prowled just beneath her skin, lending her eyes that amber glow that marked the blessed, the bonded, the worthy. Elara had no such glow. No wolf. No light. Just darkness, stretching back as far as she could remember. She lifted her gaze slowly, meeting Myra's cruel smile with the blank expression she'd perfected over 22 years of survival. Tomorrow is the Alpha King's claiming ceremony, Mira said, circling Elara like a predator toying with prey. Unmated females from every pack in the Northern Territories will be presented. The king will choose his Luna. Elara said nothing. What was there to say? The ceremony had nothing to do with her. Omegas without wolves were not presented. They were not chosen. They simply existed in the margins, in the shadows, waiting for a mercy that never came. Of course, you won't be attending. Myra's smile widened. Imagine, presenting a defective Omega to the most powerful Alpha in 5 generations. The embarrassment. The shame. The circle of wolves laughed, a sound like breaking bones. Elara felt something shift inside her chest, not pain, not anymore, but something colder. Emptier. A kind of resignation that tasted like ash. I never expected to attend, she said quietly. It was the wrong thing to say. Myra's hand shot out, fingers tangling in Elara's dark hair, wrenching her head back. You never expect anything, do you? You just take up space, breathing air that belongs to real wolves. Eating food that should feed warriors. Existing when you should have had the decency to disappear. The words were not new. Elara had heard variations of them her entire life. But tonight, something in Myra's voice was different. Sharper. More dangerous. Tonight, Myra's eyes held a decision. The pack would be better off without you, Mira whispered, close enough that Elara could smell the bloodlust on her breath. And I'm going to make sure they get their wish. The beating that followed was methodical. Professional. Mira was careful, always careful, to avoid marks that would show, injuries that would attract the Alpha's attention. A cracked rib here, bruises there, hidden beneath clothes, beneath skin, beneath the careful architecture of survival. When it was over, Elara lay in the dirt, tasting copper and defeat. The wolves departed, their laughter fading into the twilight, leaving her alone in the gathering dark. She should get up. She should drag herself back to the Omega quarters, tend her wounds, prepare for another day of invisible suffering. Instead, she stared up at the sky, watching the first stars emerge like diamonds scattered across velvet. Please, she whispered to the universe, to the moon, to whatever gods might be listening. Please. I don't want to do this anymore. It was not a prayer for death, not quite. It was something more desperate, more dangerous. It was a prayer for change. And the universe, as it turns out, was listening. Act 2, The Forbidden Magic. The cottage at the edge of the thornwood had always frightened Alara. It was a place of whispers and warnings, where the trees grew gnarled and wrong, where even the bravest wolves refused to hunt. The witch who lived there was ancient, they said. Powerful. Mad. Her name was Morgana, and she dealt in the kind of magic that came with prices no sane person would pay. Alara was no longer sane. She stumbled through the twisted forest, each step an agony of broken ribs and bruised flesh. The moon rose fat and full above her, painting everything in silver light. A hunter's moon, her mother had called it, back when her mother was still alive, before the fever took her, before Alara was left alone in a world that despised her existence. The cottage appeared suddenly, as if it had been waiting. Smoke curled from the chimney. Candlelight flickered in the windows. Somewhere inside something hummed, a sound both inviting and terrible. Alara's hand trembled as she knocked. The door opened before her knuckles could strike a second time. The woman who stood in the threshold was not what Alara expected. She was young, or appeared young, though her eyes held centuries. Beautiful, in a way that made you forget to breathe. Her hair fell in silver waves, and her smile was the smile of someone who knew every secret you'd ever kept. Alara Thorne, Morgana said, her voice like honey poured over broken glass. I've been expecting you. You know my name? Darling, I know everything. The witch stepped aside, gesturing into the cottage's warm interior. Come in. You're bleeding on my doorstep, and blood is so terribly hard to clean from stone. Inside, the cottage was larger than it had any right to be, rooms stretching into impossible distances, shelves lined with bottles and bones and things that might have once been alive. A fire roared in the hearth, casting dancing shadows across walls covered in symbols Alara didn't recognize. Morgana poured tea from a pot that hadn't been there a moment before, handing Alara a cup that smelled of chamomile and something darker, earthier. Drink, the witch commanded. It will help with the pain. Alara drank. The liquid was warm, soothing, and immediately she felt her ribs begin to knit, her bruises fade to nothing. Magic. Real magic, the kind that was forbidden, the kind that could get you executed if the Pack Council discovered it. Why did you come here, little Omega? Morgana asked, settling into a chair that seemed to grow from the floor itself. What is it you want? Alara set down the empty cup, meeting the witch's ageless gaze. I want to be someone else. Anyone else. I want to be free of this body, this life, this prison. Morgana's smile grew. How interesting. Most people come to me wanting power. You want escape. Is there a difference? Oh my dear. There is every difference. The witch rose, moving to one of her many shelves, selecting a bottle filled with liquid that seemed to shift colors, emerald to sapphire to blood red. I can give you what you ask for. But the price, the price is steep. I have nothing to pay you with. You have exactly what I need. Morgana returned, holding the bottle up to the firelight. Your humanity. Your memories of pain. Your capacity for hatred. I collect such things. They make excellent ingredients. Alara's breath caught. To give up her humanity. Was that not what she wanted? To stop feeling, stop hurting, stop being herself? What will happen to me? She whispered. You will swap souls with a creature of the wild. A wolf. You will become the beast you were always meant to be, and the beast will inhabit your human form. Morgana's eyes glittered. For one night, from moonrise to moonrise. If you do not return to this cottage before the full moon sets tomorrow, the swap becomes permanent. You will remain a wolf forever, and the creature will remain human. And if I return? Then you swap back, and you keep your humanity. But darling. The witch leaned close, her breath cold against Alara's cheek. Why would you want to? It was a good question. Alara had no answer. One more thing, Morgana added, her voice dropping to something almost warning. The wolf you will swap with, it is no ordinary creature. It is the soul of something ancient. Something powerful. Choose carefully who you wish to become. But Alara was beyond careful. Beyond cautious. She was drowning, and this was the only hand reaching down into the water. I accept, she said. Morgana's smile was triumphant. Then drink, little Omega. Drink and become. The liquid tasted like starlight and screaming. Like every dream she'd ever had and every nightmare that had chased her through the dark. It burned going down, freezing and boiling at once, and then the world exploded into sensation. Act 3, the transformation. Pain. That was the first thing. Pain beyond anything Alara had ever imagined, as if her very soul was being torn from her body by invisible hands. She screamed, but the sound that emerged was not human. It was the howl of something wild, something that had never known walls or chains or cruelty. Her bones cracked, reshaping. Her skin rippled, sprouting fur the color of midnight. Her senses exploded outward, smells so vivid they had texture, sounds so crisp they had color. And then suddenly, she was not herself. She was Wolf. She stood on 4 legs in the witch's cottage, her heart pounding with a rhythm that was both familiar and completely alien. Her body was powerful, muscular, built for speed and violence. She could feel the strength coiling in her limbs, ready to spring, to run, to hunt. For the first time in her life, Alara felt whole. Beautiful, Morgana breathed, circling her new form with appreciation. You've bonded with something magnificent, little Omega. Something that was waiting for you. Alara tried to speak, but only a soft whine emerged. Wolf vocal cords could not form human words. Go, the witch said, opening the cottage door. The forest beyond was alive with moonlight and mystery. Run. Hunt. Be free. But remember, you have until tomorrow's moonset to return. After that. She smiled. Well. After that, you belong to the wild forever. Alara did not hesitate. She ran. The forest opened before her like a revelation. Every tree was distinct, every shadow held meaning. She could smell rabbits in their burrows, deer on distant trails, the sharp scent of predators marking territory. Her paws barely touched the ground as she flew through the undergrowth, powerful and graceful and completely, utterly free. She had never known joy could feel like this, pure, uncomplicated, blazing. She ran until her lungs burned with sweet exhaustion, until the packed territories fell away behind her, until she crossed into lands she had only heard about in whispered stories. The royal territories. The domain of the Alpha King. She should turn back. She knew that. But her wolf body was drunk on freedom, and the moonlight was singing in her blood, and she couldn't stop, didn't want to stop, never wanted to stop. The scent hit her like a physical blow. Male. Alpha. Power that made the air taste like lightning. Alara skidded to a halt in a moonlit clearing, her hackles rising instinctively. She was not alone. Across the clearing, standing in the shadows at the tree line, was the largest wolf she had ever seen. His fur was dark gray, almost black, rippling with muscle. His eyes were pure gold, not the amber of common wolves, but molten gold, burning with intelligence and something else. Something that made her heart stutter. Recognition. The wolf took a step forward, and Alara felt her body respond, not with fear, but with something far more dangerous. Her wolf instincts screamed at her to submit, to bare her throat, to acknowledge the dominance radiating from this creature like heat from a forge. But she had spent her entire life submitting. So instead, she held her ground, meeting those golden eyes with every ounce of defiance she possessed. The male wolf's lips pulled back from his teeth, not quite a snarl, not quite a smile. He moved closer, circling her with predatory grace, and Alara felt every hair on her body stand on end. This was not a game. This was something primal, ancient, written into the very fabric of their beings. He was Alpha. She was not Omega. Not anymore. Not in this body. They circled each other in the moonlight, two forces meeting for the first time, and when he finally moved, fast as lightning, pinning her to the ground with his superior weight, Elara felt something inside her chest crack open. Her wolf wanted this. Wanted him. Wanted to submit and fight and mate and run until the world ended. But beneath the wolf, the human part of her that still lingered whispered a warning. This is the Alpha King. And you have until moonset tomorrow before you're trapped in this body forever. The wolf above her rumbled deep in his chest, the sound vibrating through her entire body. Then he released her, stepping back, his golden eyes holding a question she could not answer. In that moment, trapped between human and beast, between past and future, Elara Thorne made a decision that would change everything. She would find out who this wolf was. What he wanted. Why he looked at her like she was the answer to a question he hadn't known to ask. She had one night to be free. She was going to spend it with the most dangerous creature in the kingdom. What could possibly go wrong? Act 4, The Alpha King. Cale Northrend, Alpha King of the Northern Territories, did not believe in fate. He believed in power. Strategy. The careful cultivation of alliances and the swift elimination of threats. He believed in duty, in the weight of the crown his father had passed to him on a field soaked with blood. He did not believe in love. And yet, standing in the moonlit clearing with this strange wolf before him, Cale felt something he had not experienced in years. Recognition. His wolf, the beast that had lived inside him since his first shift at 14, was going absolutely mad. Howling, pacing, demanding he claim this female immediately, mark her, keep her, never let her go. It was irrational. Dangerous. Completely unlike the careful control he maintained over every aspect of his nature. And yet he couldn't look away. The female was beautiful, her midnight fur gleaming in the moonlight, her eyes holding intelligence and defiance in equal measure. But it was more than beauty. There was something about her scent, her bearing, the way she held his gaze without flinching. She was not afraid of him. Everyone was afraid of him. Cale shifted, his bones cracking and reforming, taking his human shape in seconds. The change was effortless after so many years, though it left him naked in the moonlight, his body marked with scars from 100 battles. The female wolf's eyes widened, but she did not flee. Instead, she sat back on her haunches, watching him with an intensity that made his skin prickle with awareness. Shift, he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of alpha authority. The wolf just tilted her head, as if considering whether to obey. Cale felt his lips twitch despite himself. When was the last time someone had not immediately bowed to his will? You cannot speak in that form, he said, gentler this time. And I would very much like to know who has wandered onto my land without permission. Still, the wolf did not shift. Instead she stood, padding closer with a grace that spoke of skill, of training. She circled him once, twice, her wet nose brushing against his hand. The touch sent electricity racing up his arm. His wolf roared its approval, and Cale had to physically restrain himself from reaching for her, from tangling his fingers in that midnight fur and never letting go. You cannot shift, he realized suddenly. You're trapped in that form. The wolf's ears flattened, confirmation. Cursed? Injured? He knelt, bringing himself closer to her level, studying her with the intensity he usually reserved for battle strategy. If you can understand me, nod once. She nodded. Cursed. She hesitated, then gave a motion that was neither yes nor no. Something in between. Cale felt his protective instincts surge, another surprise. He had spent years building walls around his heart, ensuring nothing and no one could get close enough to hurt him. His parents' brutal murders had taught him that lesson. Love was weakness. Attachment was danger. And yet, with this wolf before him, those walls felt paper-thin. Come, he said, making a decision that would have shocked his council. My estate is nearby. I have a healer who might be able to help. The wolf studied him for a long moment, those intelligent eyes searching his face for something. Then, to his surprise, she moved forward, pressing her body against his legs in a gesture of trust. Something in Cale's chest tightened. He shifted back to his wolf form, and together they ran through his territories, two creatures moving as one beneath the hunting moon. The Northrend estate sprawled across the northern cliffs like a fortress carved from starlight and stone. Cale led the female through hidden passages, avoiding the guards and servants who would report this strange breach of protocol to his council before dawn. His private chambers were austere, a warrior's room, built for function rather than comfort. But the fireplace was large, the furs were soft, and most importantly, they were alone. He shifted back to human form, pulling on loose trousers before turning to find the wolf curled by the fire, watching him with those eyes that seemed to see straight through him. "I should introduce myself properly," Cale said, settling into a chair near her. "I am Cale Northrend, Alpha King, which you've probably guessed by now." The wolf's tail wagged once, amusement perhaps. "Tomorrow, I'm supposed to choose a Luna at the claiming ceremony. Every unmated female from every major pack will be presented. It's tradition, politics, duty." He heard the bitterness creep into his voice and didn't bother to hide it. "I will choose someone appropriate. Form an alliance. Produce an heir. It's what's expected." The wolf moved closer, resting her large head on his knee. The gesture was so intimate, so trusting, that Cale felt something crack inside him. "The truth is," he said quietly, reaching down to stroke her fur, "I don't want any of them. I've watched them at court, beautiful, cunning, perfect, and completely false. They want power, not partnership. They see the crown, not the man." The wolf's eyes reflected the firelight, golden and warm. "But you..." Cale's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "You look at me like I'm just Cale. Not a king. Not a prize. Just a man standing in the moonlight." She made a soft sound, not quite a whine, not quite a growl. Something that resonated in his chest like a tuning fork finding its frequency. "Tell me your name," he said. "Even if you cannot speak it, there must be a way." The wolf stood, padding to the desk where Cale kept his correspondence. With careful movements, she used her snout to push papers aside until she found what she sought, a charcoal pencil. Cale watched in amazement as she gripped it carefully in her jaws, bending low to the parchment. The letters were clumsy, but readable. "Elara." "Elara," he breathed, and the name felt right on his tongue. Like something he'd been waiting his whole life to say. "A beautiful name for a beautiful wolf." She huffed, definitely amusement this time. "Can you tell me what happened? How you came to be trapped?" Slowly, painfully, she wrote more. "Witch. Spell. Moonset tomorrow. Understanding dawned. You'll change back? Return to human form." She nodded, but there was something in her eyes, hesitation perhaps. "Or fear. Unless," he prompted. She wrote again. "Unless I stay wolf forever. Is that what you want?" Cale asked carefully. "To remain as you are?" Elara's response came after a long pause. "Don't know. Human life was pain. This is freedom." Cale felt anger surge through him, not at her, but at whatever had hurt her badly enough that she would prefer to abandon her humanity entirely. "Who hurt you, Elara?" She shook her head, she would not say. "If you return to human form," he said slowly, an idea forming, "would you come to the claiming ceremony?" "Not as a participant," he added quickly, seeing her stiffen. "As my guest. My friend." Her head tilted in question. "I want to see your face," Cale admitted. "I want to know the woman behind these eyes. And selfishly, I want you there tomorrow when I'm forced to choose someone who isn't." He trailed off, but they both knew what he'd been about to say. "Someone who isn't you." Elara moved suddenly, rising on her hind legs, placing her front paws on his shoulders. They were face to face, so close he could feel her breath against his skin, could see the flecks of silver in her eyes. If she were human right now, he would kiss her. Would pull her close and never let go. Instead, he rested his forehead against hers, feeling their connection pulse like a living thing between them. "Stay tonight," he whispered. "Please. Tomorrow, whatever you decide, wolf or human, freedom or something else, stay tonight." Alara's answer was to curl up in his lap, all impossible grace and wild trust, and Cale held her while the fire burned low and the moon tracked across the sky. He had one night with this strange, magnificent creature. He intended to spend every second of it memorizing how she felt in his arms. Act 5, The Dawn Choice. Alara woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the Alpha King's arms wrapped around her fur. No, not fur. Skin. She shot upright, panic flooding through her, looking down to find herself human again. Naked, draped in Cale's cloak, her long dark hair tumbling over her shoulders. She was herself. The spell had released her with the sunrise. And she had absolutely no idea what to do. Cale stirred beside her, his eyes opening slowly, and Alara watched the exact moment he registered the change. His gaze traveled over her face, really seeing her for the first time, and something extraordinary happened. He smiled. Not a king's smile. Not a warrior's smile. Something genuine and warm and completely unguarded. "Hello, Alara," he said softly. "Hello," she whispered back, acutely aware of how close they were, of his hand resting on her waist, of the way he looked at her like she was something precious. "You're even more beautiful than I imagined." She ducked her head, unused to compliments. "I'm just an omega. Wolfless. Broken." "You," Cale said firmly, tilting her chin up to meet his eyes, "are magnificent. I felt it last night. You're no ordinary omega, Alara. There's power in you. Sleeping perhaps, but there." Before she could respond, a sharp knock came at the door. "Your Majesty," a gruff voice called. "The claiming ceremony begins in 2 hours. The council requests your presence for preparations." Reality crashed back in. The ceremony. Where Cale would choose his Luna from among the most powerful, beautiful females in the kingdom. Where Alara did not belong. She moved to pull away, but Cale's arms tightened around her. "Come with me," he said urgently. "Be presented. Give me the chance to choose you." "I can't." Alara's throat tightened. "I have no wolf. No pack standing. They would never accept." "I don't care what they accept." Cale's eyes blazed with intensity. "You are my mate, Alara. I felt it the moment I saw you. My wolf recognized yours, even trapped as you were. Don't you feel it?" She did. Oh, she did. It was like standing at the edge of a cliff, feeling the pull to jump, to fly, to trust that something would catch her. But Alara had jumped before. Had trusted before. And every single time, she had fallen. "The witch said I have until moonset tonight," she said quietly. "To return to her cottage. If I don't, the spell becomes permanent. I'll remain a wolf forever." Understanding dawned in Cale's eyes. "And you're considering it?" "In that body I was free. I was strong. No one could hurt me." Tears pricked her eyes. "As a human, I'm just nothing." "You are everything," Cale said fiercely, cupping her face in his hands. "But I won't force you to stay. If being a wolf is what you truly want, I'll let you go. I'll miss you every day for the rest of my life, but I'll let you go." The sincerity in his voice broke something open inside her. "Come to the ceremony," he continued. "See what being human can offer. See what we could be together. And then when the moon rises tonight, if you still want to run, I'll run with you. As wolves. Forever, if that's what you choose." "You would give up your crown?" Alara breathed. "For you." Cale's smile was sad and certain. In a heartbeat. Before Alara could respond, the door burst open. Kale's beta, a fierce woman named Tara, strode in, took one look at them, and crossed her arms. "So," she said drily. "This is why you weren't answering your door. Should I tell the council you'll be late, or are we canceling the whole thing?" Kale looked at Alara. The question in his eyes was clear. And Alara, who had spent her entire life being afraid, who had been beaten down and broken and told she was worthless. Alara, who had tasted freedom and power and wild joy in the body of a wolf. Alara chose. "Tell them," she said, her voice stronger than she'd ever heard it, "that the Alpha King will be presenting an unexpected candidate. And that if anyone has a problem with it." She met Tara's eyes, feeling something ancient and powerful stir inside her chest. "They can take it up with me." Tara's grin was sharp as a blade. "I like her already. Come on, Omega. Let's make you look like a queen." As Tara swept Alara away to prepare for the ceremony that would determine the course of her entire life, Alara caught Kale's gaze one last time. He mouthed two words, "Trust me." And for the first time in her life, Alara did. Epilogue: The Claiming. The ceremony was magnificent. Hundreds of wolves gathered in the great hall, the most powerful families from every territory dressed in their finest. And there, presented before them all, stood the candidates for Luna. They were all beautiful, all powerful, all everything Alara was not. But when Kale walked into that hall, his eyes found only her. And when he crossed the floor, ignoring protocol and tradition and the shocked gasps of his council, when he took her hand and pulled her forward into the moonlight streaming through the windows, when he spoke the ancient words of claiming before them all, "I choose Alara Thorne, my mate, my Luna, my everything." Something happened. Light exploded from Alara's chest, brilliant, blinding, pure. Her body convulsed, and she felt it, the thing that had been sleeping inside her all along, awakening at last. Her wolf. Not borrowed. Not temporary. Hers. She shifted in a cascade of power that left the entire hall breathless. But she was not the midnight wolf of last night. Her fur was silver, rare, precious, marking her as something the wolves had legends about but rarely saw. A true Luna. Born, not made. The witch had not trapped her in a wolf's body. She had awakened what had been dormant inside her all along. Kale shifted beside her, his gray wolf pressing against her silver one, and the bond between them snapped into place with a rightness that shook the foundations of the whole. "Mate," his wolf said into her mind, their telepathic bond now complete. "Mate," she agreed, and the joy in that single word could have lit the stars. They ran from that hall together, two wolves, two souls, two pieces of one whole, out into the moonlight, into the forest, into the life that stretched before them. Behind them, the council erupted in chaos. Before them, the future waited with open arms. And Alara, who had been nothing, who had been broken, who had wanted to disappear. Alara, who had become everything. She threw back her head and howled her triumph to the watching moon. Soft, triumphant music fades in. They say the moon holds secrets. Tonight, you learned one of them. That sometimes, the thing we're running from is exactly what we need to run toward. That magic exists in the spaces between heartbeats. That love, real love, sees not what you are, but what you've always been. And that destiny has a funny way of finding us, even when we're trying to hide. Especially then. The end.